All right. So on tonight's show, we're going to start off with the latest episode of Star Trek Picard. We are going to start by talking spoiler free. So no spoilers here at the beginning. We're just going to talk about general impressions from the show. Please, those of you in the Rogues Gallery, please feel free to chime in. But again, please avoid spoilers at this point. And then when we get into the spoiler talk, you'll see a banner there across the bottom, and it'll say spoilers, and you'll know it's okay to go crazy. And then we have something interesting we're going to actually try out tonight during the spoiler portion of the discussion of Picard. So tell me, Eric, what were your initial impressions of the latest episode of Star Trek Picard, Broken Pieces?
Well, what can I say? I always feel like I'm in the same position when it comes to this show. But I'll say this right off the bat. Broken Pieces was a perfect name for this episode. It was absolutely a perfect name because I feel like this is a broken show with broken people. You know what I mean? And it's broke. So once again, I've harped on this quite a bit. The uneven tone of this show is just mind-boggling to me. It is so uneven in both pacing and tone. There were times where I was practically falling asleep during this episode because it was taking so long for anything to happen. I literally think there was only 2 things in this episode of any consequence, and the rest of it was almost complete and total fluff. Complete and total fluff. My favorite character, Raffi, is very prominent in this episode, so that didn't help. She's very prominent in this episode. Doesn't really do anything, but she's very prominent in this episode. I thought, I'll get into that more in the deep dive, but I thought the way they handled that was just incredibly cheesy and contrived. But yeah, the unevenness of the tone of the show in terms of going from something very serious, very dark or very depressing to just like basically dad joke level humor is just it's just so weird to me. And I feel like these are like stories kind of like almost like just sort of piled on top of each other, and they don't really work, as a cohesive story. But they kind of force it down our throats anyway. Katie has joined us, and she says, hashtag Planet Raffi. So yeah, I'm a big Raffi fan, as any of you viewers know. Yeah, I'm a huge Raffi fan. But yeah, the uneven tone is what really gets to me. Like I said, the pacing I think is weird. I mean, literally not very much happened in this episode, and this episode was almost an hour long. And it's funny because I remember kind of being critical of The Mandalorian because I thought some of the episodes were too short, and I felt like I wasn't getting my value. But I'm starting to realize The Mandalorian actually did a much better job because this episode could have been 20 minutes to get the pertinent information that you needed. It could have been actually 15 minutes probably, if that, because so little actually happened. It's a lot of cheesy dialogue. Oh my gosh, one of the lines, jeez, I'll get into that in a spoiler. I mean, cringe-worthy dialogue. And Shaban is like a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And it's like, is he really willing? He's really willing to put his name on this crap. You know what I mean? It's like some of the dialogue was so bad. And of course, more cursing. We're back to the cursing. It's too much contemporary stuff. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense to me. I'll get into that in the deep dive. But yeah, again, I just feel like it's so uneven in tone and pacing. But what do you think, Dave?
I'm of the opinion that I'm officially have decided that unless something really interesting happens soon, I'm probably not going to be back for season 2 of Picard. I'm pretty much there. I love Star Trek very much. It's a very important part of my childhood, my life, whatever. But this show's about done it for me. I'm looking for ways to cut so I can put more advertising budget into the show. CBS All Access, you might be out of here pretty soon. So I mean, honestly, and this is the episode. Like, there was some stuff with Seven I really enjoyed, but all I could think of is like, why didn't we do some of this stuff maybe a little sooner? Like, and I like Rios, and there was like some of the stuff with him was kind of fun, but overall, I didn't really care. I didn't really care for this episode. I mean,
without getting into the spoiler, because we do find out what happened to Rios. We find out basically why he left Starfleet. Now, without telling people what we found out, what did you think of that? What did you think of that scenario? Did you like it? Did you think it was compelling and great, or what?
I thought it was unfortunate and sad, and I didn't quite understand why it went down the way that they described it. Without getting into spoilers, I was just sort of like going, "Okay, that's why."
I thought it was I thought it was terrible. I thought it was terrible, and it's another slap to Starfleet and the Federation and all that kind of stuff. We'll get into it in the deep dive, but I was really kind of upset about it, and also the way that it comes out. It's like, that was just so contrived and silly. And again, I'm like saying, you know what? I'm going to 10 minutes now. I think I'm going to keep going down. I'm going to end up like at 5 minutes. We could have had what we needed to know in this episode. We could have gotten in 5 minutes. The way we got it was just like pulling teeth. It was so long. It was so boring. It was so contrived to me. You know what I mean? Again, the pacing problem. Katie says, Siobhan hates Janeway. Don't expect class, because she was the epitome of class. And I know Katie is referring to comments that Siobhan actually made about not really being a fan. I can't remember the way he phrased it exactly, but he basically didn't really like the Janeway Seven dynamic, and he had the gall to say that, because somebody actually kind of pitched him the idea of a Seven spinoff. That's the way I remember the context. A fan pitched him like the idea of a Seven spinoff with Janeway, and he was all like, "Yeah, we actually kind of joke half," and he said half joking, without the Janeway. You know what I mean? About doing like a Seven spinoff, but yeah, no Janeway. I don't really like her. You know what I mean? So yeah, Katie. And there is not a whole lot of class in this in this episode or any other episode of Picard. Again, the F-bombs, unnecessary, takes me out of the world.
Totally. I hated that. I hated that so much, the way they did that. I mean, hasn't that character technically said that to Picard twice now?
Yeah.
Was it once enough? Do we have to have that character say that to Picard twice?
And that's like the definition of gratuitous. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you had your little shock moment. Now it's not even shocking. Now it's just stupid. It's just lazy. You know what I mean? It's not even shocking anymore, because we know how she is. We know how this character is. We know how they write now. You know what I mean? We have a couple more comments here. Mando Stan says, directed at Katie, I agree that Kate Mulgrew did a very classy job as Captain Janeway. And I don't disagree. I would say Voyager is actually probably my least favorite classic Trek. In fact, I can say that pretty confidently. It is my least favorite. And Janeway is not one of my favorite characters, but I do think Kate Mulgrew did a great job. I don't think that she's a bad actor or anything like that. I do think she had a lot of class. And we are lacking that in this show. We really are lacking that in this show. I think she's a great actress. And like I said, I'm not a huge Voyager fan. I actually really like Seven and Tuvok, and I also liked Kes. I also liked Kes quite a bit, but Tuvok's probably my favorite. He's right there with Seven, and I think they're actually very similar. Seven and Tuvok, I think, are actually very similar in a lot of ways. And so those are my favorite characters on Voyager. So we have another. It says, Katie says, another boo to authority, establishment, and uniformity, aka Starfleet. Exactly. There was a lot of that in this episode. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of more like, Starfleet sucks. They're corrupt. You know what I mean? This is not Gene's Starfleet. This is not Gene's Starfleet. It's just not. It's not Trek. That's because it's like, that's not what Starfleet's supposed to be about. That's not the way they're supposed to roll. Yeah. And then Katie did kind of clarify what Shaban said. He said the dynamic. He said it wasn't compelling, and he said Janeway did nothing for 7 years. That is pretty bold of Shaban to say something like that. I've mentioned this before. You do not need to crap on what came before you to show how good your thing is now. And I hate it. I hate it when they do that in a franchise. When they try to say the newest thing is the best. Okay, best is subjective. Okay, but when they try to do that kind of hype and just that lack of respect for the shoulders that they're climbing on top of and standing on, literally standing on as they're making these statements, I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to do. I really don't. It's kind of like Kurtzman, when he went out and said, "Oh, I never liked Trek," and this is the guy who runs Trek now. I never liked it. I like Star Wars, just like JJ said that too. I never really liked Trek. I like Star Wars, and you can just see it. I mean, they are deconstructing these characters. They are deconstructing Trek. That's what they're really doing. They are taking it apart and ripping it from the inside out. You know what I mean? Because this doesn't feel Trek. This show does not feel Trek at all. Manasan says, I feel that this show is ripping off ideas from other shows. The profanity from Admiral Clancy is probably trying to imitate. And I don't know that. I apologize because I don't watch The Expanse. I don't know that name. Avasarala? It's a character from The Expanse, and I have been told The Expanse is very good, but The Expanse is on Amazon, isn't it, Dave? Does that sound right?
Yes, I think so. Sorry, my mic was muted.
No problem. By the way, we're starting to get used to that of kind of like taking our mics off and stuff like that. And but the thing about that is with The Expanse, I don't have Amazon Prime. So I don't have the ability to watch it right now. I've heard it's very, very good, and I don't know. Maybe in the future we'll try to tackle that. You know what I mean? As a review or something like that. Especially if we get more viewers or listeners that are interested in that. You definitely can send us suggestions about what you think we should watch, and especially if you're like you feel bad for us because we hate the show. You can be like, hey, maybe you would like this. Because that would be nice. It'd be nice to review something that I'm actually enjoying. That would be a lot more fun, But I'm also okay reviewing stuff that I don't like. I don't have to like it. I look at this as I look at this as like a job. So I think that it's I don't have to like it, but you can always suggest something as far as something that we might want to tackle, and then Dave and I can discuss it.
And I was just gonna say our second topic tonight is something that's a lot of fun. So, like our second main feature topic tonight. So, and I was just going to add, I quite like Janeway. I did enjoy her character a lot, and she's way more of a classic Star Trek character and a captain than anything we got going on in Picard so far. That's for darn sure. And I ironically have been reflecting on. I'm not terribly dismissive of Voyager. I mean, I liked Voyager. I didn't love Voyager, but Voyager is a far superior Star Trek show compared to Picard.
Absolutely, I don't disagree with that at all.
And I'm
Voyager still has the spirit of Trek,
right?
So,
and I'm coming to appreciate Voyager more and more because it seems like we are running from classic Trek, and I'm like going, man, Voyager was. That was a pretty good show. I'm actually thinking about revisiting Voyager because Picard has really made me think I need to rethink my opinions on some of these shows. And just so Katie knows, my mom Jane is actually in the chat, so I'm going to try and watch my language tonight. But my mom's nickname was actually Admiral Janeway because her name is Jane.
Oh,
and She quite liked Voyager back in the day too. So we've actually got quite a few Voyager fans probably in the chat right now. So
that's good. I mean, the show does have 7 in it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that's why they're watching it. And then Katie mentioned Janeway and Seven's bond is why she's a fan. Says that they helped me through. They helped me so profoundly as a young woman. The breaking of their bond will make me stop being a fan. And I've actually mentioned to Katie, like on Twitter and stuff like that, because we've had some good exchanges. I'm at the point, it's like, Katie, you do not want Janeway in this show. You do not want Janeway in this show because they will destroy that character. I mean, it seems like that's their mission. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't want your fan. Think if you were an Icheb fan or a Hugh fan, look what they did to them. You know what I mean? So, I mean, do you really want your character in this, your favorite character in this? I don't. You know what I mean? I'm happy that William Shatner doesn't seem to have any ambition to be in this show. You know what I mean? Because they'd find a way, because I'm one of those people that doesn't really like the Kirk death. They will find a way to make it worse. You know what I mean? Even if they'll bring him back just to kill him and somehow make it worse. You know what I mean? Than it was in Generations. That's my opinion right now. And then also, Man of Sand, as far as suggestions, he said The Expanse and The Witcher are two shows I enjoyed recently. And I think, Dave, we actually did talk about possibly doing The Witcher at some point.
Yes, we have discussed it, and I think it would be worth definitely visiting. Might be fun to do an episode by episode. We could watch the first episode and see how we feel about it. That would actually be something fun. It would give us something to replace, like Picard, with like our opening show thing. You know what I mean? I think it's worth looking into for sure. Yeah, because we have talked about it. So,
and we have someone new that's joined the chat, Ayoko Santo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, or Sato, right? Ayoko Sato, Ayoko 15.
It could be Sato.
There's a number in there. All right. Anyway, sorry if I'm butchering your name. Says, I know I'm 3 episodes behind, but Elnor to me is the most Trek to me. He has the same sweet, naive quality like Data, even though he's a killer. Everything else is jaded and bitter. And I would agree with you there. I think he is probably the most optimistic, and it's because of his naivete. You know what I mean? Because he's so naive. I would agree with that. He's probably like the most Trek character, and actually, I guess that's a good segue because he does do something. You see it right off the bat, right? With his appearance. I think that's a good segue into spoilers. You know what I mean, as far as Elnor's role in this episode, and you think that's a good segue into spoilers, Dave?
Yeah, that's a good segue into spoilers, and I want to welcome our commenter to the Rogues Gallery. Again, just a reminder, we are giving away this original art sketch card tonight on the show for people who comment in the comments, or our Rogues Gallery, as we call them. This is an original art sketch card. The art is by me. This is from Arrow Season 4. Until it's official, a little hollow foil there on the cover. This is Speedy from Arrow Season 4. I want to welcome you to the Rogues Gallery. Again, please be over the age of 18 and U.S. shipping only, unfortunately, because I have extra paperwork to fill out, and I'm just not into that. I'm not into paperwork.
And that's all to encourage you people to join us, to join the conversation, because we love your comments. We like to respond to your comments. Whatever your opinions, all views are respected here. If you love the show, tell us why you love the show. Interesting to hear that.
I would be interested to hear it. I really would. And I'm not, I like I said, there's been episodes I've enjoyed. And there were things about this episode that I had a little bit of fun with, but overall, I wasn't just a big fan of this particular episode. That's for darn sure. So